Okay, so for this lesson, we are going to be setting up the framework of our bird's eye city scene. Our bird's eye city scenes are going to look kind of something like this. So it looks like you're going down into the vanishing point. There's only one point, and you are like in a plane and you're looking straight down at it. So that is where we're headed, but we want to make first that framework. So let's begin. I suggest that you have a clear ruler. It's not mandatory, but I think it makes it a little bit easier in order to do it right. We are going to be drawing 3 2-inch lines with a 1/2 inch in between, so feel free please to pause the video as you go. I want to remind you that the end of the ruler is not always at 0, so if you include this little bit at the end, your measurement's going to be off. Also, I would also put to you just the idea that however you want the margins to be. Here, I'll show you, hold on. So see how it's a little bit more narrow over here and a little bit wider over here. You might want to try to think about moving it over if it bothers you. I do suggest that you don't start building this set of blocks to the very edge of the paper. I think it's better if you kind of set it inset. All right, so kind of figure out how you want those 7 inches to float in the side of your paper. I have very dry fingers. I can get the paper to move. Okay. So follow along. What we'll do is be making the perimeter of our blocks. So I start at 0. I'm keeping my fingers splayed out on the ruler. If you tend to draw on a ruler and keep your fingers in one area, the ruler will slide. So you want to keep those very straight. And I keep thinking of things before we start. I think it's nice, let me hold this up a little bit, if you can use the side of your ruler, if you can see, but these lines can line up to the very side of your paper, and so if they go straight, the line is straight sitting over the edge of your paper, you know that your ruler for the most part is rather straight. If it's starting to tilt and you see that the lines on the ruler don't line up to the edge of the paper, you know that you might be a little bit crooked. So I use those lines as guidelines. Even though I'm not measuring with it, it just helps make that line more straight. So we're going to start at 0, draw a line from 0 to 2, lift up our pencil, keeping the ruler on there, don't move the ruler, skip a 1/2 inch, start at 2.5 inches, draw to 4.5 inches, skip a 1/2 inch, go to 5 to 7. Turn your ruler. Again, pause if you need to. I'm going to line up the line of 0 I'm looking through that little glass and I'm lining it up, making sure it's straight, and I'm also looking at the bottom of my page to kind of see if the lines line up so I know I'm fairly straight. Start at 0, 0 to 2, skip a 1/2 inch, 2.5 to 4.5, skip a 1/2 inch, 5 to 7. And go around. Now, I like turning my paper. Again, we've talked earlier about when you draw, can turn your paper any way you want. Again, I'm checking down here to make sure it's straight. I'm lining it up. 0 to 2, 2.5 to 4.5, 5 to 7. Turned around. And now you can kind of see I have my 7 inch, it's going to go together. 0 to 2, skip a 1/2 inch, 2.5 to 4.5, skip a 1/2 inch, 5 to 7. I want to draw 9 blocks. I do not want the center block. We just have to pay attention to that as we go. There's lots of ways you can draw each block as you go. This is the way I like to do it. So lining it up at 0, lining it up at 7, 0 to 2, 2.5 to 4.5, 5 to 7. This isn't going to have a block in the middle. As I move my ruler over to the left, I'm going to go 0 to 2. I'm going to skip the part and go 5 to 7. Next side again, same problem, skipping the middle, keeping my hands splayed so my ruler doesn't move. 0 to 2, 5 to 7. And then the outer edge has all 3 blocks. So 0 to 2, 2.5 to 4.5, 5 to 7. Flipping it all around, and we're closing it up. You can measure, but pretty much you're going to hopefully find that it really does just close up. So I'm just closing up those blocks, but lining my pencil up, lining my ruler up, making sure I've got a good straight line. 0 to 2, 2.5 to 4.5, 5 to 7. Now I want to find that one vanishing point in here. So I'm going to find it by making an X, and we'll locate it that way. So this inner corner on the outer block to the diagonal outer block. I'm going to draw a faint line. Don't carve. Just make sure you can see it. You can make it darker later. And do the same thing on the other outer blocks. And I have found my point. So I'm going to emphasize it a little bit. Don't make a huge point on it. Just a little dot so you really kind of know where you're going. And we'll do the inner portion. I'm going to take my pencil. I actually, when I do one point, what I tend to do is put my pencil down on one of the points and I just whack my ruler up to it and swing it in to where I need it and then draw my line like that. Instead of floating it, so you know you can float it in and make sure you've got both points and then go ahead and draw them. I don't know. I just tend to like to follow it, lock it, and then go to one point. And I don't have to eyeball it. I think rulers kind of slide around a lot myself, but this is just personal preference, little tricks that I like. Okay, so I have all those inner corners located to the point. Now I need to do all the outer corners. What I'm going to do is grab this outer corner, line it up to the point. I'm going to draw until it hits the building and stop. If you continually drew through it, it would look like it would just look like a glass building. Let me show you. This is not what you do, but you can see how it would look. If I were to draw that line, it would go through the building, and now this building, it just does. It's going to wind up looking like glass. You can see how you can see through it. So it's not a good choice unless you're making something glass. Let's not do it for this purpose, okay? So I'm going to all those outer corners. Even though the line doesn't go all the way down, it does report to the point. If it does not report to the point, it's going to make this building look like it's flattened out. It has to report to the point. And as we go along, you'll find every window has to report to the point. Every doorway has to report to the point. Everything has to report to the point. It's very, very important. Go through all those outer edges and just until it touches the outer side of the next building. And you're done. So you're all set up. Now let's do the doors and the windows. Or not the doors, but you know, all the doodads. Okay.